Ladies and gentlemen, the last bank on this planet that will loan to Trump is in serious, serious trouble. And it is bad. But this goes back to what I was telling you years ago when I used to pick up a Wall Street Journal and go through it periodically. These folks cannot run businesses. It is the exact opposite of everything they've been telling you all up until this time. They'll tell you, well, we know how to run businesses. We know how to run things. No, they don't. No, they don't. Take a closer look at many of these corporations and banks around this country. They lose tons and tons and tons of money. The kind of money they lose, ladies and gentlemen, you and I could not lose in a lifetime. And what they do, they got the system set up. When these banks are failing, print more money, bail them out, print more money, help these corporations, print more money, loan to people that really aren't eligible for these loans. Just keep giving it to them. That's how they run things. When you take a closer look, you will see how bad it is. They never could run businesses. They could run their mouth and tell you they know how to run a business, but in reality, they can't run anything. They can't run banks. They can't run corporations. They can't run anything. And I'm not exaggerating this at all. Please start picking up a Wall Street Journal and you will see these companies losing $1 billion in a quarter. Wall Street loses over $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion a year. You couldn't lose that even if you tried. Okay? You would not be able to lose that in a year even if you tried. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is just another failing bank in America, one of many. For a long time, these folks played the game in the illusion of knowing how to do things. But I want you to start taking a closer look. I remember about 2 years ago, Uber lost $800 million in 6 months. Again, it's the illusion of making it look like they know what they're doing, but they actually don't. So this came out in the New York Times. Deutsche Bank faces criminal investigation for potential money laundering lapses, June 19th, 2019. And I have a video that I'm going to show you along with this. Federal authorities are investigating whether Deutsche Bank complied with laws meant to stop money laundering and other crimes. The latest government examination of potential misconduct at one of the world's largest and most troubled banks, according to 7 people familiar with the inquiry. And I want you to hear who is involved in this too. The investigation includes a review of Deutsche Bank's handling of so-called suspicious activity reports that its employees prepared about possibly problematic transactions. In other words, loaning to people and companies that were not eligible for those loans, and they shelled the money out anyway, including some link to President Trump, son-in-law, and senior advisor Jared Kushner. According to people close to the bank and others familiar with the matter. I tell you, whenever you see criminal activity, you won't see anybody affiliated with Trump far away from the activity. You can best believe it. Woo! So this company is in serious trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, I have this video from RT News, and you can see, because, this is Russia Today, and Deutsche Bank is huge in Russia. So this is the Kaiser report. I want you to hear what they're saying. And this is going to back up what I'm telling you when I say these folks cannot run things. They have lied to the world about their abilities. They really have. But I want you to listen to this. And this was the same case when there was the financial collapse in America. Something similar to this was going on. But I want you to really pay close attention. And I want you to wake up from this illusion that have been put on us about these folks are the best. They are the best at running things. They are the best being in charge. It is a full out lie. Let me go ahead and play this video for you.
10 years ago when we first started Kaiser Report, those happy days ago.
Yeah, they got the Lehman Brothers collapse happen, and that was the result of insolvency. But we were told that it was a problem of illiquidity. And we were told that Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and the Wall Street banks had done nothing wrong, that it was just a crazy, unfortunate freak accident, that they ran out of money suddenly because of all the bad luck to people that couldn't possibly pay them back. And that the taxpayer and the global economy should take a step back, and $17 or $18 trillion needed to be printed to bail out Warren Buffett, to bail out Wall Street banks so that they could keep their yacht payments going and buy, a billionaire row apartments in New York City for $250 million, as we've just seen recently, or to invade London and buy properties for $120 million. That's money that was given to them by the central banks in the 2008 crisis to avoid having to fess up that they were running insolvent institutions and that they had put the entire economy at risk, and that they are engaged in a kleptocratic crony capitalist nightmare. So Deutsche Bank, as we've been saying now for 5 years, was the most likely of the major banks to go bankrupt and require a bailout. The state of Germany has now provided Deutsche Bank with a state bailout. The bad bank scenario is masking a bailout. And the accounting fraud at Deutsche Bank is only now just being revealed at the tip of the iceberg. They're sitting on $500 billion worth of worthless derivatives that, if you mark to market, would be greater than 5 times global GDP. This is, in fact, the beginning of Lehman 2.0. This is why gold goes up in price, because it's discounting a major economic collapse. This is why Bitcoin, which is the virtual digital version of gold, no matter what Peter Schiff says, no matter what Miss Shedlock says, it is gold 2.0. That's now definitively been the case. Don't come at me with all of your crazy conspiracy nonsense. And so we enter into another phase of the global financial crisis. Right now, Deutsche Bank, the tip of the spear, as we've been saying for years. Only keep money in Deutsche Bank you're willing to lose. The banking system's about to implode. We're on the cusp of a nightmare. And it's easy to predict if you're willing to look at some simple facts.
This show, Kaiser Report, has been airing for 10 years. We started back in 2009 during the midst of the crisis. This is Deutsche Bank's share price. This is in 2008. Down to 2009, while all the intervention by the central banks has been keeping some of it afloat, now down 95% since its 2008 high. One thing that has been happening since the beginning of the financial crisis is early on we had this debate of inflation versus deflation. We had a evenly split between our guests. Some said it was going to be inflation. Some said it's deflation. Certainly, this shows that we've had deflation across Europe for the past 10 years. There has, of course, been inflation in the select assets owned by the top 1%, on whose behalf the central banks operate. So you've had high-end property prices in all the major cities around the world. You've had the value of art prices and, you know, certain things that the very wealthy own has increased. Now, in terms of these this bad bank, what the German taxpayer is going to be on the hook for is the derivatives book. They're moving the long-dated derivatives over to the taxpayer of Germany. Of course, it's the long-dated one, so it's not going to be for another 10 years that even, you know, the taxpayers who are only, well, some of them are only like 10, 15 years old at this point, and they don't know what they own.
They've introduced negative interest rates across Germany and the rest of Europe. They're $11 billion, $12 trillion worth of negative sovereign debt. That is taking money out of people's pockets and giving it to the kleptocracy running the Deutsche Bank. The financial terrorists that run Deutsche Bank, they do negative interest rates. They put that money in their pockets. It's a wealth transfer. It's not deflation. It's financial repression. This is the financial gulag and masked as an economic theory. These gentlemen are the equivalent of, I mean, you know, I can name all sorts of skullduggery there. I mean, but if you're walking down the street and you feel something squishy under your foot that you stepped in, and it stinks really bad, that's the people who run Deutsche Bank. Those are the people that run the European Central Bank. That's Mario Draghi. It goes beyond simply a racket and a crime wave. This is a psychotic cult that's bent on not only an eco-holocaust, but an economic genocide.
Now, did you hear what he said? Ladies and gentlemen, what is happening to Deutsche Bank is the same thing that happened in banking back in 2007 when the bailout had to take place. Does this sound like somebody that knows how to run things? This is what I'm telling you. You know, they've been boasting about these elites and, oh, the elites this and, oh, the elites that. And everything these folks run is a complete disaster. That's what I want you to open your eyes and see. What you are seeing, ladies and gentlemen, as far as things ran in America is nothing more than an illusion. That's what I want you to see. It's nothing more than an illusion. And they can't keep trying to put this on, well, it's the elite, well, it's the Jews, well, it's these folks. Well, no. It's these folks in general. I mean, these fantasy games have gone on for a long time, and the world is really being fooled by all of the trick bags and smoke screens and we got high IQs and all that stuff. It is just a bunch of phoniness. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It is just like looking in that mirror in your car and the objects are further than they seem. That's what America and this whole globe is like. This is reality. And like I said, I learned this early on when I was in my 20s and I worked for a company that was in serious debt, but they were walking around and putting on airs as if, oh, they know how to do things, and this person and this CEO, and it's all a sham. It's all a sham. This whole reality is all a sham. And you can best believe the recession is coming. It's coming, y'all. You know, for us, it won't change because it's like life is a recession. So for us, it won't change. But for these folks, it's going to be a different ball game. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. I am so glad this stuff came out. And if I can show you this more often, I will. This is how banking works in general, ladies and gentlemen. This is not an isolated thing with Deutsche Bank. This is the entire banking industry, and this is how it's ran. They would rather loan to these folks and know they can't pay it back and keep doing it over and over than give a dime to you and me, even with good credit. So the entire banking system will eventually implode. Anytime you got to keep printing money to keep these banks afloat, maybe they shouldn't exist in the first place. And I know that may sound crazy, but I'm being real honest. Maybe they should not exist in the first place. They do so poorly. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I want you to think about this. When you pick up the Bible or you pick up books talking about ancient societies, did they talk about these banks? Were these banks even in existence, or did this come much later? It came much later. The world didn't need all this banking before. People got paid directly. You didn't need the middleman, which I consider the banks. The banks are the middleman. You didn't need this. And just understand, things are going to go right back to the way they were before. The universe will correct all of this stuff, even if man failed to do it. Peace, family.